That wasn't very smooth, but it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. Okay.
You're going to master it in a few tries. It's okay.
Well,
this is only the second.
Lucky for the listeners, I can edit out the not smooth part. But yeah, that wasn't my greatest.
Exactly. They won't even know.
Wasn't my greatest fade out, but we're here. We made it.
We made it.
Week 2 with the Roadcaster Pro. Also, shout out to everybody who noticed and reached out about just the sound quality being good.
Yeah, if you actually listen to the pod, I feel like there's no way you wouldn't be able to not notice. Shout out to the ones who reached out to us and hit us up for sure.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it because this is obviously important to us, and we're happy that we're in a good place with our sound, and we're happy that it sounds good to you guys. And so hearing your feedback really just warms the heart.
I feel like we leveled up.
We totally leveled up.
It might be a small level change, but it's still a level up.
We're not going to let it go because we leveled the F up. Before we get into our topic today, when this episode comes out, it'll be officially Black History Month. So let's just take a moment to shout out Black History Month. I feel like this year, with like everything that went on in 2020, I feel like a different one. Yeah, I feel like people are going to be way more like into Black History Month or like live on social media and like hoping that it's all genuine, but we won't know until we see it.
Now that you brought that up, I can remember us last year speaking about Black History Month, and I'm pretty sure we had a little debate because I was like, it's pointless at this point. Like,
yeah, we had a debate.
Last year, it was pointless, but now that you say that, now with everything that went on with 2020, I feel like a lot more people are going to put a lot more energy into Black History Month this year. So you might rejuvenate it a little bit. My feelings might change.
I think what we argued about in that episode too.
Do you remember? Like now is it coming back to you?
Yeah, it's coming back to me, and it wasn't necessarily about like, because I also remember people hitting me up like, why doesn't Jared care about Black History Month? But that wasn't your message. Your message was like, nobody cares about Black history throughout the rest of the year, and they just use Black History Month.
They just condense it to the shortest month of the year.
Yes, and then use that month as also like any other holiday, like money making, and like not in a bad way, because
that's the only time they teach.
That's the only time they teach it in schools. Yeah, and it's not a bad thing. It's just like,
well, that's a terrible thing.
Well, it's not. It's a terrible thing. That's the only time they keep it in school. I'm talking about in terms of like commerce and like people capitalizing off Black History Month in terms of like selling Black History Month things. I think if you're
they do with the Pride.
Yes, like Pride. But I mean, I think if you're supporting Black business and you want to do that even more so in Black History Month, that's great. But things like that, to Jared's point, and education and stuff like that should be happening
year round. But also, this is, at least for the monetization part of it, this could be a start, because I guess if a person learns more about Black businesses and Black History Month during that month, hopefully they will start taking that outside of just the month. Yeah. So hopefully they'll start spending their money with Black-owned businesses outside of February, and also they will start teaching the history, Black history, outside of February. I just haven't seen it yet, but who knows? Yeah, but it's a starting point.
Yeah, so, and I think just like hopefully, like you said, hopefully is a key word. But considering everything that happened in 2020 with just like the massive spike in support for Black Lives Matter,
and all of a sudden people's eyes.
All of a sudden, I just think like hopefully everyone is being more top of mind conscious about that, not just during Black History Month, but of course this month is a chance for us to really like hone in on it. I think like ever since all that stuff went down in 2020, I'm pretty sure like it's so much easier and accessible to actually find Black owned. Not so much easier because it's still a struggle, but like Yelp, I know now has like a Black owned section for whatever you can find on Yelp. And
even with like Netflix now, they have like a Black critically acclaimed
like
section for Black movies and Black content creators, I guess you could say.
Yeah, so I think the main difference between Black History Month this year compared to past years is like maybe that content and ways people can get involved is more top of mind and accessible.
Amplified.
Yeah, amplified from like a public perspective, which means that y'all should have no excuse but to support.
Yeah, because I mean, even if you look at Juneteenth in 2020, that was right after a good amount of protests were going on and after people opened their eyes, quote unquote. But even Juneteenth, that was like a huge day. It was posted everywhere.
Yeah.
People were openly sharing that they were trying to find ways to spend their money with Black-owned businesses. So hopefully that can carry over into Black History Month, and in 2021, Black History Month can actually be something that's as important as I guess it was back in the day, not as watered down as what I thought it was in the previous years.
Well, we'll just have to find out. I think that's a good, really good segue into what we were planning to talk about today, because what we want to address today essentially is just like breaking out of comfort zones and being vulnerable and how that affects us as adults on a day-to-day basis. I think this entire journey of people hopping on the bandwagon, whether it just happened last year or you've been on the BLM support for a while, like making those internal changes for people and like having difficult conversations, all those things are things that have to happen outside of people's comfort zones.
Facts.
And all of any changes that we have, any positive changes that we have in regards to race in this country has to happen outside of comfort zones. And until people are ready to actually step outside their comfort zone, I feel like we're going to remain in the same place for a while.
Yeah, I like how you actually pointed out it's more of like the hard, difficult conversations, because you are a person supporting Black individuals or wanting to spend their money with Black-owned businesses. That shouldn't be looked at as you breaking out of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Even though, but it is.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me. Like, something so little is crazy to think that that's actually people breaking out of their comfort zones.
I know.
Which is weird to me. And I guess that's kind of, it taps into unconscious bias.
Yeah. And it's like the idea of the comfort zone too, when I was reading about it when doing all of our stuff to prepare for this episode, it's like your comfort zone, it's not even like you want to break out of your comfort zone. It's the idea that you just want to like continuously expand your comfort zone. So like you want to do something that you feel like is outside of your comfort zone. And then once you do that and you realize that you do it and can do it, you push yourself a little further and you push yourself a little further. And that is sort of like how you continue to expand your comfort zone and
you continue to learn and grow
as a person and as adults. I feel like that's another thing too that we want to talk about today, is just like even our life choices as adults. I feel like our day-to-day, not just day-to-day choices, but like life-changing choices, like marriage, home buying, adding kids to the family, like those types of things, death, like major life events, all sort of can be determined really. Like you could really go down a totally different life path if you're
by the actions you make and
your
vulnerability.
And if you're doing those actions, like if you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone to make those decisions or not, if you're staying in that place of like comfort out of whether it's fear or fear of being vulnerable or whatever, fear of making the wrong decision, I feel like we all can relate to. So yeah, I feel like this is something that we go through every single day as adults. But
and it also could be so small and so minuscule that you don't even notice it as well.
Exactly.
But it does happen in everyday life.
Yes.
A lot of, like, you don't even notice.
I know, it's so funny because when I think about it now too, I think about like little things, right? Like this is like a stupid ass example.
I got one next too, so I'm happy. I'm happy you brought it up because my example is probably going to be super out there.
Like yes, yours is probably going to be more out there than mine. But my example too is like on a day-to-day level of pushing outside your comfort zone is like, at least for me personally, like I am not somebody who enjoys talking to people like just throughout, like I'm going about my day.
I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah, like I'm going about my day.
But I don't think the listeners would get that from you.
I heard that before and I probably agree with you, but like the idea of going about my day and like being in the checkout line, and you know those people who just like will just be like, wow, I really love your this, or like compliment you like a stranger, or a stranger who start to have conversation with you.
The small talk.
Yes, I hate that.
I don't like small talk.
I hate it internally, but I am trying on a day-to-day basis to push myself outside of my comfort zone to at least respond to these people who talk to me, because sometimes I truly just pretend I don't hear them. But also be the one to start a random conversation, because first of all, I think anything could happen from a conversation. Literally. Yeah. You could say hi to somebody in the checkout line of the liquor store, and that somebody could be the executive at fucking who knows where. So
it's all about the connections you make. You don't know who knows who.
Yes. So I'm thinking like missed opportunity by not having conversation, but also I don't know. I just think part of what we're going through as a country right now, and this whole divide and like all this shit, having basic conversation with people, especially people that don't look like you, is like a really, really, really micro way to push that agenda forward in terms of like understanding each other and seeing each other's point of views. Like if you as a black guy randomly talks to a white lady at the liquor store who probably was scared of you when you walked in, but you complimented her shoes or something, she might be like, oh, that black guy's not as scary as I thought he was.
That's true. I never looked at it like that, but that's a really good point, because when I see white people in stores, especially older white people,
I'm
not saying anything to them. But there's been times when people have approached me and said things to me, and then I hate it. I don't want the small talk, but then I would participate in the conversation. But now I think I might start going out of my way to start making just a little, hi, how you doing?
Yeah. Because Terrence is very good at this. He will talk to anybody. He'll talk to freaking anybody. And like he'll be in grocery stores and like see an old lady. Like,
that's a Southern thing too.
Yes, it is. I think it's a Southern hospitality thing. But he'll be in grocery stores fully looking like us, like in our white grocery store, mostly white people, looking like how I would not think like he looks scary. Not, it's not scary to me, but like in my mind, I think like hopefully other people aren't like afraid of my husband. But he'll just be in like his sweats, like a big sweatsuit, Cowboys maybe. Sometimes people are intimidated by that because Cowboys fans are kind of crazy. But like,
does he have the hood up?
Yeah, beanie on, hood up.
Same. When I'm out and about, I'll be wearing the hood up.
Yeah. So in my head, I'm like, oh my God, these people are like. But Terrence, he'll be like, he'll see the old lady in the grocery store like trying to get something, or even not old lady, just like random people, and he'll be like, oh, I'll help you with that, and he'll like go and help them and like talk to them and be like, how are you, and he's like so personable. And literally people in the grocery, like the one time this happened specifically, and the lady was like, wow, you are such a nice man, like thank you so much for coming up to me.
What were you thinking I was beforehand?
But I'm like, that is what I mean. And so like for me, talking to people randomly in the streets is not something I want to do, but I'm trying to do it more, because the more you do it, the less scary it is the next time, or annoying, or whatever feeling you feel. And then, like I said, you never know what can come from a conversation. What was your example?
Hold on, but back to that point, I'm definitely dropping my example, because this has been brewing inside of me that I wanted to say somewhere, or somebody, like, not even like me tweet it, because I won't be able to give the whole backstory, but I'm gonna let y'all know. But anyway, back to that point. That actually is easier for me to be like, oh, do you need help with something? Because in my mind, I'm like, I can help them real quick, and then I'm out. Like, I don't have to have actual small talk conversation. But doing that and then having a little small talk conversation after that, I like that. And I think that I'm going to start trying to do that more.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Breaking out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Okay. So so if you know me, people might think that I might enjoy conflict and things like that, but I actually don't enjoy conflict. And I don't want to tell somebody when they're wrong or something's not right. I'll just be like, I'll get over it. So a broad example would be, say if you order some food and it's wrong and you just live with it. I feel like a lot of men do that. And then there's a lot of women who are like, no, take that back, blah, 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 blah. Long story short.
Oh my God.
But this is different.
Okay.
So long story short, we've been home for almost a year now. So when I'm home, I'm bored. I want something sweet. I'm addicted to sugar, as everybody knows. So I go to Dunkin Donuts, and I want a donut like every single day. So there's this new Dunkin Donuts by me. They're terrible. They're so slow. So then I go to another Dunkin Donuts, and I'm like, okay, this is a great place. I asked them for a donut. The person, this happened at least 5 times. The person is ringing me up with the gloves on, doing everything they need to do behind the counter with their gloves on. Takes my money with their gloves on. Gives me my money back with their gloves on. They then turn around and go grab the donut with those same exact gloves. They don't grab the paper that you're supposed to grab beforehand.
Yeah, to get the donut.
To get the donut. They grab it with their, well, I'm going to say their bare hands, but they have gloves on. But you've done every single thing behind the counter with those same gloves on. And then they gave me my donut. So the first couple times it happened, I was like, you know what? I noticed it. I was like, I'm not even going to say anything. They gave me the donut. I would just leave the donut there and just walk out. Not want my money back or anything.
You didn't take the donut the first couple times?
Yeah, the first couple times, because I'm not eating that. And I didn't want to tell them. I was in my comfort zone. I didn't want to break out of my comfort zone to tell them what they were doing was wrong.
So what did you left with nothing, or you had a drink?
Well, I had a drink. I got a drink and a donut. So I left with my drink. I'm okay. I was like, that's a sign. I don't need a donut. Because I'm also...
You thought it was a sign?
Yeah, at the same time, I'm like, I don't need a donut. I don't want a donut. I don't need a donut. But then I get there and I get the donut.
You're like, oh, they touched it with the gloves, so I guess I'm not having a donut.
Okay, but first, like, is that not nasty? Am I tripping?
I mean, that is nasty when you bring it up like that, but I don't think that people have that thought process on a day-to-day basis the way you have it.
Why? If you have a glove on, that's cross-contamination. If you have a glove on...
I think people are just perpetually in a rush, and they don't even notice. Like, they just want to get their shit and go.
Well, they need to notice. So after a couple times, I was like, you know what? I'm going to say something. So then I say something to the person, and they're like, oh, you're right. Like, I know I'm right. Thank you. And they turn around. They throw the donut out. Actually, one person, the first time it happened, I told him, she put the donut back.
No.
She put the donut back and then went, grabbed the paper.
She put the donut back in the basket?
Yes, with the rest of the donuts.
She took it out the bag?
Yes.
No.
Yes. So she takes it out the bag.
Jared,
she puts it back with the rest of the donuts.
Why would you say this?
And then, I'm just telling the truth. And then gives me a new donut with the paper that she grabbed, which I'm like, okay, that's how it's supposed to be done. Same thing happens the next time I go. This time, the person throws the donut out, but they actually reach and don't grab it with their nasty glove. And then I feel like me bringing out my comfort zone and letting them know that what they were doing was wrong might have saved other individuals from eating those type of donuts.
Hello.
Even though they probably wouldn't have noticed that. But
there you go.
I don't know how you don't notice that if somebody is literally touching every single thing with the gloves and then just go raw dogs your donut.
Raw dogs. That's so funny. Okay, and that is a very good day-to-day example. Day-to-day example
it's so,
of
like,
breaking out. It's so small.
I actually went into it like way too deep, but it's so small and subtle. It's like a 5-second transaction that's super quick, but that's been bothering me for like since we've been in quarantine because it's been happening so much. And then I go to other Dunkin' Donuts and they don't do it. They do it the right way. Where they grab the paper.
Oh, so it's just the one near you.
It's just this one. And then if I go to the other Dunkin'
Donuts,
Donuts,
maybe stepping out of your comfort zone is speaking to the management.
I was thinking that, and I'm like, no, like these
you don't want to be that person.
Yeah, I don't want to be that person.
You don't want to be a Karen.
I don't want to write a review. I don't write reviews, but I don't want to. But I'm like, this is bothering me so much that somebody has to know about this. Like, where is their training coming in at?
You don't want to be the Karen for the day.
I don't want to be the Karen, but I'm like, well, I told the people that I've dealt with that work behind the register, like I've had 3 separate people that have done it, and I've said something to each one of them. So hopefully now they know and they can pass it along. But I'm like, to me, I thought that was common sense.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
But you're making it seem like I'm going crazy. I don't know.
No, I'm not making it seem like you're going crazy. I'm just saying, like, I've never noticed something like that. I hope it hasn't happened to me, but I'm not gonna lie. I usually place my order at Dunkin' Donuts. And then walk over to the pickup line. No, not on the app. I'm there in person or in the drive-thru. I love a good drive-thru, so I have no idea what's going on. Or I walk back over to the pickup line and I'm just on my phone until they call my number.
And it could be because of COVID. Like, this probably could have been happening my whole life. You're hyper-aware. Yeah, like now I'm just more aware of it.
Yeah. Okay, so I think those are what both of our examples are good about for day-to-day comfort zone things, because even though they feel like so small, I think doing a small thing a lot of times adds up to something good.
Well, I would say even in your day-to-day, like even maybe speaking up in a meeting.
Yeah.
Like that's something that's so small and subtle, but it's still in your everyday. And I think that goes through people's minds all the time.
Yeah, and then Well, so that brings me to my next point, which is I found this article that I'll put in the show notes for you guys to see. But it was just a random article that was talking about like 4 signs that you might be stuck in your comfort zone. These are bigger subjects, like that has to do with obviously adulting in our day-to-day life. But the literal first one on here, which I feel so strongly about, is your paycheck. And like
negotiating a salary,
not negotiating your salary either when you get the job or maybe when you have your yearly review, or if you have been doing someone else's job for a while just to be nice, or like whatever it is your situation is, and you are feeling the feeling inside of you of like, I don't get paid enough for this, which I feel like is a thought that we all can relate to every day.
A good amount of the working world.
Okay, so if you don't feel like that, like how can you? And I can't even sit here and act like I do this, because I've been even advised to ask for a higher salary by like a mentor and was still too scared to do it. And so I think like things like that are, you know, something like asking for a raise or asking for a higher salary. Those are things where like that could have an immediate impact on your life.
Yeah,
like if
affect your bottom line.
Yes, if you push yourself outside of your comfort zone and face that fear, that's going to immediately make a significant change in your life. And I feel like people, especially now in quarantine, everything is like, oh, everything's out of our control. Like the world is ending, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, you can still take control of your own life. Mm-hmm. Like we are all individually in control of our own lives. We just get into these routines and we are programmed to think like, oh, this type of professional makes this much, so that's what I'm making, and I'm in, you know, I've capped, or like I'm at the median, so I'm okay with that. But like that, it doesn't have to be that way.
And then if you actually break out of your comfort zone and do it, it could be a very easy process.
Yes. And it's like, then think about this, which I think about all the time. This is like the number one question I ask myself when I'm afraid to do something. If I'm afraid to do something, that means it's out of my comfort zone, right? How do I face that in the moment? I literally ask myself, what is the worst possible thing that can happen from doing this? Mm-hmm. What's the worst possible thing that could happen from asking for more money? They say no.
Yeah, they're going to say no. You're not going to get fired. They're not going to put you on a performance plan.
Like, what is the worst possible thing that could happen? They say no. Okay, great. Now let me make a plan. And if you have to use resources, get a mentor, get somebody who can help you make a plan for going to your supervisor or your HR department about it. Literally, like that is what I've been trying to do all 2020, and why I feel like I grew in 2020 as a whole, as a person in my personal life, because I made decisions that I definitely haven't made before, pushed me outside my comfort zone, tried new things. They ended up all being great for me. But in the moment I was like, yeah, fuck this. Like, I don't want to do this. Or like, I'm worried about what people will think if I do this.
Yeah, and even if you ask and they say no, they might even be able to give you like a blueprint of what you need to maybe even get to the next point.
Right.
Or what you need to do or improve on.
That's a good point.
To get that raise or to get some more money.
Yeah.
So it also will be a learning experience.
And
depending on your relationship with your boss, supervisor, whatever, whoever you're asking.
And if they say no for some bullshit reason, maybe you're now rethinking like, if you even want to work there.
Exactly.
Like, what is your worth? Like, you only we as individuals can decide that. And so if you feel like you're worth a certain salary and your skill set is there, then go find yourself a job that
fits that,
pays you what you're worth.
Yeah.
Another thing that's on this list of like things that you might be in your comfort, ways you might know you're in your comfort zone is your network, which I agree with. And it kind of goes back to this thought of like, I hate talking to new people, like that, what I just said earlier. And it basically just says like, are you attending like industry networking events? Are you going to social events? Are you putting any time towards connecting with either people who you haven't connected with in a while, people who feel totally out of reach, like, oh, this person would never respond back to my DM, or new people, right? Like,
yeah, like back when we were in the office and life was normal, I used to hate going to networking events.
Me.
Like, I feel like everybody hated going to networking events.
Me too, and it's like my job. Like, I do fundraising. Like, I literally am required to be there.
It's needed for your position. But like, you go into a room full of people and you're supposed to just walk up to random people and start conversations and see where you can connect.
It's definitely scary.
Just the thought of that itself.
It makes you want to just vomit.
Yeah, it makes you anxious too. Like, come on, I'm supposed to do this. So I guess people are now doing a lot of virtual ones.
That's what I'm saying.
Might make it a little bit easier. But to how we started the pod, if you go into a networking event, you might meet somebody who has a different connection to somebody even higher. You never know where that can take you.
Mm-hmm.
It can just take you to better places, more growth, even more possibilities or opportunities. So
literally. And I feel like too, it's like, again, what is the worst fucking possible thing that can happen? Nothing. Literally nothing.
You have a conversation with the person.
You had 3 pointless conversations. Yeah. But like
people do that all day, every day.
Most likely that's not going to happen. Like most likely, and I also believe in manifestation, so this is a little bit of that sneaking in. But if you go to an event thinking like, I'm about to meet some dope ass people at this event, or like me going to this event is going to be like, I'm going to talk to someone at this event that's going to be able to push me to this place. Like specifically, for an example, if it's podcasting, like if we go into a podcasting event thinking like, oh my God, this is the worst shit ever, we're probably not going to have any good productive conversations with that
energy is
attitude.
going to be following you.
But if we go into a podcasting event being like, oh shit, like we might be able to like get a dope guest on our show, or like get some more resources about like what type of content.
Find an editor.
Or
find somebody who knows more about sound quality that could help you improve it.
Yeah.
Like even the accelerator program we did.
Exactly.
That was outside our comfort zone.
Way outside of our comfort zone. We were texting about that for like at least a week. Like, so should we do it? I don't know if we should do it. Should we do it? Like, we could not.
And we're thinking we're like little peons on this like level
yes.
compared to all these other podcasters who have 10,000 followers, 15,000 followers.
Yes, we're like, why would they even want us on the show? Yeah. I mean, in the class. And it turned out to be one of the best things we've ever done. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I've never actually heard and I'm sure they exist. I'm not saying
there's definitely some.
But I've actually never heard like someone, specifically as it relates to networking, not pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, because with that comes failure, which we'll get to. But I've actually never like heard a horribly like tragic thing coming out of like meeting new people, especially online. It's so easy. You know how many online friends we've made this year that I've literally never met? I've made about 100.
I was about to say, like, I feel like now you're big in, well, you're always big in this like social media, but now it's social networking.
Yes.
So you're making connections with people all across the globe.
It's so much fun.
Through social media. So I also feel like that's a little easier too.
Yes.
Versus you doing it in person.
Exactly.
So, and you guys have the same goals.
Yes.
You guys are all working on the same thing.
So what a perfect way to ease outside of your comfort zone by doing it online.
Yeah. But it's still out of your comfort zone. So correct. You still have to take that step to end up doing it.
Correct. Which brings up the point of like failure. So
people are scared of failure.
People are so scared of failure.
I think we talked about this on the motivation episode.
Oh yeah, we did a little bit, but I have to bring it up again because I think people resist stepping outside of their comfort zone because they are afraid of failure. Mm-hmm. And the reality of it is, like, the failure is the best part in the long run, because the only thing that comes from failure really is learning and growth.
Growth, yeah.
And how to not do things, or how to do things better the next time.
Yeah, so the third thing on this list is your to-do list. And there's actually a difference between reactive tasks and proactive tasks. And I feel like you have a ton of to-do lists. And I think it's like
me as a person, you mean?
Well, in general, yeah.
Oh.
You Asia. You have like 30 million to-do lists probably.
I
all
do.
Different spectrums of life and of what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I do. I have to-do lists for every freaking thing that I do. But
do you think that that's helped you?
Yeah, I think that what they're trying to point out in this article, though, is the difference between reactive and proactive tasks. So, but what basically they're saying is reactive tasks are just what they sound like, things that you have to do on a day-to-day basis, or things that just fall into your lap, versus proactive tasks, which are like things that you seek out to further your goals, things that
better your life.
Yeah, things that you put on your list to purposely improve, or whatever your little personal development is for the day. So that is definitely something that I have on my to-do list. Maybe not for every aspect of my life, because some areas of my life I'm just like over it.
I mean, the more proactive you are, the easier things in life will be.
Right.
So, I mean, proactively hopping out of your comfort zone to me would just be
it's just an
such
advantage.
a confidence, and a confidence booster.
Yeah, because if you're if you're put in a position where you're required, like you're now being forced to go outside your comfort zone, and you have no choice, like that's one way to do it.
You're going to struggle more with that than you doing it proactively.
But you're going to do it either way. It's just like different types of growth, right? Like that, if you're thrown into something that you're like, this is way outside of my comfort zone, and you do it, you're going to realize that day that you were able to do it, and you're going to be like, wow. Versus like setting out to do something, I feel like is harder actually, because you can talk yourself out of it before you get to doing it.
That anxiety and that fear paralyze you, keep you complacent in the place that you're at.
Yeah, so you can like
no growth from that.
You can talk yourself out of it really easily, but those are the points in which you grow. Like when you get to the point where you're wanting to talk yourself out of doing something, and then you fight your demon thoughts in your head, and then move forward with.
And I know we said it earlier, but it's just so crazy, like when you're so worried about doing something or the effect of something, and then it happens, and you're like, wow. That really wasn't that bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then the last thing they wrote in this article of like ways you might be stuck in, or signs you might be stuck in your comfort zone, is career goals, which kind of goes back to the salary thing. But I feel strongly about this because I feel like most recently in 2020, with just like my side hustles and like podcasting and other types of businesses that I want to dabble in 2021, it's just coming to real life to me, to like just the fact that like we're all just programmed to think that we have to like work every day 9 to 5, get a job, get a good job, listen to your boss, blah 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 blah, help the company, make money for other people.
That is true.
It's like
it's conditioning.
Yeah, that is what like we have been told is the normal way of living. And people who,
well, if you look at it, it is the normal way of living. That's what majority of folks are doing.
Exactly. But like the folks who aren't doing that are
Megan Bank,
because the bajillionaires, and like
the 1%.
I'm not saying you have to want to be a bajillionaire, but
financial freedom
I feel like is what we all strive for. And the fact of the matter is, depending on what field you work in and your preferred lifestyle, that combination, you might never be able to reach financial freedom
just by working for somebody.
Yes. So in the article, they talk about like your career goals and like, do you have career goals? Do you personally even care about them? Are you just attached to certain goals because that's what someone said you had to do? You got your master's and someone gave you like an outlook of like things you could do with that master's, and now you feel like
you have to go to college in general.
Yeah, and now you feel like that's the only thing, versus like
student loan debt.
Exactly. Versus the opposite of like thinking outside the box, pushing outside of your comfort zone. What is your passion? What do you want to do forever? Like, I know that I don't want to do what I'm doing right now forever. The sooner I can get out of it, the better, honestly.
Yeah.
But
you're following the path that others put you on. That is also just being very comfortable in your comfort zone.
Yes, complacent.
Just drive out of that, yeah.
And anytime, think about this. And the reason why people don't go outside their comfort zone is because
they don't know, maybe.
Well, and when other people do it, in our minds, we have these constructs and these programmings to think like, oh, they're crazy, or like, oh, that'll never work, or like, oh, this, oh, that, oh,
yeah,
that.
The negative side of like just negative things go in your head, and you
start and you judge people who do that, but then those are the people who end up getting to where they want to be. And it's not even about becoming someone or becoming someone notable. It's about like becoming the best version of yourself. And for me personally, becoming the best version of myself is helping others, like doing something that's contributing back to society in a way that also gives me financial freedom. And
to your point, people are talking negatively about you, and then they say you take off, and then they want to hop on it, but at that point it's too late. And they're not gonna be able to take that same path that you did.
Exactly. So it's just
they're gonna be stuck in the mud.
it's like especially specifically with career, I feel like thinking of adulting, right, as a whole, the biggest thing that we complain about, the biggest thing in our lives, the most time we spend besides with our family is like at our jobs. Yeah. It's like our biggest stressor. It's our biggest this, it's our biggest that. And like, we have control over that. We just forget that we have control over it. We feel like we can't leave this job because this is going on or that's going on. Yeah. We make up things. We make up shit in our head. And it's just made up thoughts. It's just your subconscious making
But at times it is valid though.
It's valid, but not valid enough that you can't change it. You can change whatever situation you're in. You can. I'm not going to be like easily. It's not like you can easily quit your job. Like, people have bills to pay. I understand that. But it's like that idea of like desperation, right? Like,
back to the wall.
Yeah. If you have no other choice, if you are desperate to do something, this is how I feel like single moms and like people who just like fucking grind it out. They
find a way.
Yeah. You just have to do it.
I mean, even look at like normal people. If you're making a certain amount of money and you want something that, say, call something weekly, you're going to find a way to get that. You're going to put time and effort into the things that you want and hopefully the things you need.
Exactly.
Some people at times put their wants above their needs. So
yeah. And so why do we put those types of fears in our head and stuff around careers? I don't want to come off like, oh, man, because I do this. Like, I used to do this so much more than I do now. Thank God.
And you've grown out of it.
I've grown out of it. I think I've seen the light.
Of it, yeah.
And now that I've pushed myself outside my comfort zone, here's where I feel like I am personally. I feel like I've pushed myself so far out of my comfort zone, or rather expanded my comfort zone to the point where the things that go through my mind and the goals that I want
it's a different level.
Are a different level. They're just like things I've never thought about before.
So what are some things that helped you break out of your comfort zone that others can also utilize? Or is it just all mental?
No, I think it's mental. I think it's a daily practice. I think it's who you surround yourself with. If you are, there's a saying, it's like, if you're in a room with 5 millionaires, or like if you're in the room with 5 successful people, like you'll be the 6th one.
Yeah.
And it's
you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to be in rooms with people who are smarter than you.
Exactly.
You want to be in rooms with people who work harder than you.
Exactly.
You want to be in rooms with people who have more money than you.
Exactly.
It's going to push you and drive you to get to that status and that level.
And that goes back to networking. It's like, I'm not saying fucking ditch all your old friends. I mean, I think every relationship brings something different to the table, but if you are hanging with the same friends that you hung out with from high school and everybody still lives in the same town and everybody blah, 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 and it's like, that's going to be your mindset. But if you're hanging out with people who are taking entrepreneurial risks or like trying new things, even if it's like...
Not even, they're just from different parts of the country. Yeah.
Yes, you're gonna
learn. So
yes,
even with going to college, I'm from Jersey, me going to Massachusetts for school opened my eyes a lot more than if I went to school in Philly.
Yeah.
I still would have been home hanging around the same people, doing the same things that I was doing.
Also having those conversations, like, and I feel like you and I do this too, of like, and that's what makes you motivate you to be like, okay, we could do this. Like, having conversations about like what we want what the podcast would look like next year, or like in 2 years when we did a live, like filling a stadium, and like stuff like that you talk about with people, that then makes you reflect and be like, could I really do that? Then now you're thinking about fear, like, fuck, we could never do that. We could never be in a fucking stadium with people doing a live podcast. Then you're like,
let's talk.
Yeah. Then you're like, why not? I don't predict the future. My fucking subconscious thoughts don't predict the future. Like, anything could happen.
And then you get around people who've
done
their way to do it, or who have done it, and you see the route they've taken,
the
lessons they've learned, and you grow from that.
Facts.
And it's just breaking out of your comfort zone, trying to meet those individuals and gain that knowledge and information.
Facts. And then
so it's all about, at the end of the day, it's about conquering fear.
Yep.
Conquering anxiety.
Yeah. And I think like what I was saying just that for me is like, I feel like I've expanded my comfort zone to the point where I'm now thinking about those bigger things. And now I feel like I can't even do anything until I get there, or like
You're driven.
I'll push myself out of my comfort zone 1,000 times if it means getting there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I am personally.
And letting the anxiety and the fear motivate you.
Yes.
And propel you instead of paralyze you.
Yes. Which we say all the time. But there's another article that we don't have time to talk about today, but I'll put it in our show notes from Brene Brown. I don't know if you know who that is. I feel like I just told you about her today. But she is a social worker who has studied the idea of fear and vulnerability, and how actually being vulnerable can help us is actually low key the secret to like being better people. She has like one of the most watched TED Talks in the world, a ton of books. She has a podcast as well that I listen to called Unlocking Us or something like that. Anyways, I'm going to put that article up there in the show notes because it's a really good one about just vulnerability. And it had me thinking, like, if we're going to bring it full circle to Black History Month, which we talked about in the beginning of the episode, which is as we continue to talk about anti-racism and moving equality in the United States forward.
There's going to be some tough conversations.
There's going to be tough conversations. We've always said on this podcast that change is uncomfortable, but I think a piece of that we don't always talk about is vulnerability. And we have to like acknowledge for a second that it takes a level of vulnerability for somebody to admit where you're starting from, whether that's about race, whether that's about
anything in life,
anything, but in this situation we're talking about race. Like, admit your starting point and not be afraid to feel judged because of that starting point. I mean, that also part of that weighs on who you're talking to, like who you're having the conversation with. Mm-hmm. But
somebody who's open to letting it be known that they're wrong, or
mm-hmm.
they have bias.
Or just someone else who's vulnerable, like someone else who's also willing to say, like, same, I also was there. Or I just think there is a level of vulnerability that we have to reach as people in this country.
A long way to go.
To have conversations that will move us forward.
We'll get there one day.
I hope so. So anyways, we won't novel y'all. We just were obviously talking about our 2021 intentions, things we want to do for the podcast, some fears that we had, and we're like, wow, this is a thing that we all go through. So hopefully this helped a little bit, but yeah, I feel like we could honestly go very deep down into this topic, especially with vulnerability. Like, we keep saying we're going to get a therapist on here. Put that on the list.
It's coming.
I have one in mind.
2021. Break out of your comfort zone.
Yes. I can't wait to see it. But anyways, if you guys like this episode and this podcast, do us a favor, scroll down to the bottom of the page, add a rating, write a review. We love reading those reviews. And honestly, they're so helpful for us as well.
Yes, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Done With Adulting Pod. Also on Twitter, Done WTH Adulting. We appreciate y'all checking in with us on Insta and giving us likes, leaving us comments, hopping in the DMs. So please continue that. Share us as much as possible. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Tell a friend to tell a friend. And yes, we have some exciting things coming up for this month.
For this year. 2021.
A good guest specifically that I'm thinking of for Black History Month that I'm really, really excited about, but we're not going to give you guys any spoilers. So you heard Jared. Follow us on the IGs. Leave us a review, and we will talk to you guys next week.